Cajun James Carville told Democrats to do the walk of shame. And we know how good Democrats are at following orders. So they lined Kamala right up for an early Thanksgiving apology tour.
The outcome of this election obviously is not what we wanted. It is not what we worked so hard for. But I am proud of the race we ran. You knocked on doors, you called friends, you called in favors. You said, hey, I showed up at your softball game. Now I need you to show up at the campaign office. And I know this is an uncertain time. I'm clear-eyed about that. I know you're clear-eyed about it. And it feels heavy. And I just have to remind you, don't you ever let anybody take your power from you.
And it wasn't just Harris. Tim Walz had to apologize. And the whole campaign did too. Wilmington was ordered to report to Obama World and explain themselves. But they're still full of it.
It can sound like making excuses. This political environment sucked, okay? We were dealing with ferocious headwinds. And I think people's instinct was to give the Republicans and even Donald Trump another chance. So we had a complicated puzzle to put together here in terms of the voters. And it was going to take a little bit more independent Republicans. We have to understand that what happened in this election and what didn't. And, I think at the end of the day, we had to raise people's concern and the threat level of a Trump second term.
That was the guy Obama sent in to help run the Kamala campaign. And he just said, we had to say Trump was a fascist. We had nothing else to go on. We also learned how fake the polling was. The Kamala campaign admitted they were never ahead, ever.
We didn't get the breaks we needed on Election Day. There was the Biden-Trump 1.0, which is obviously pretty catastrophic in terms of where the race stood. When we got in, my recollection is some of that snapped back, but, we were behind. I mean, I think it surprised people because there was these public polls that came out in late September, early October, showing us with leads that we never saw.
Kamala's internals never had her in the lead, but they were telling donors they were going to win. They just needed more money. And then they took the money and gave it to Oprah.
There has been, even from some folks, anonymously at least, inside the campaign, some critique of some of the spending decisions around things like the set for Call Her Daddy, this, renting the Sphere, that sort of stuff. Do you think when you guys have done all the books, that whether the DNC will be in debt at the end of this race?
We had some unique things that we had to do in this race. You can look at, did we get the best deal here? This was quite costly here. It's quite expensive. At the end of the day, though, I think if you look at the spend we had, the majority of the money we spent, it was to reach voters.
Reach voters? You dodged Rogan, and Rogan was free.
We wanted to do it. I hate to repeat this over and over, but it was a very short race with a limited number of days. And for a candidate to leave the battleground to go to Houston, which is a day off the playing field in the battleground, getting that timing right is really important. So we had discussions with Joe Rogan's team. They were great. They wanted us to come on. We wanted to come on. We tried to get a date to make it work. And ultimately, we just weren't able to find a date.
Let me get this straight. You were in Texas, but you weren't able to find a date to do Rogan, the hottest podcast in the country? They were never going to do Rogan. That was a suicide mission. They knew Kamala couldn't hang in there with him for 3 hours. She couldn't survive The View. Then they said Kamala was brave and never ducked an interview.
Real people heard in some way that we were not going to have interviews, which was both not true and also so counter to any kind of standard that was put on Trump that I think that was a problem. And then on top of that, we would do an interview, and to Stephanie's point, the questions were small and processy and about
dumb.
They were not informing a voter who was trying to listen to learn more or to understand. And, I think back and think we should have signaled more of our strategy early on about podcasts and who we were trying to reach. But being up against a narrative that we weren't doing anything or we were afraid to have interviews is completely bullshit.
BS? Harris waited 5 weeks to do her first interview, and she brought Timmy along to hold her hand on CNN. And when her internal polling had her down in the fall, Obama made her do the media blitz, remember? And she choked so hard on Bret Baier, her team threw in the towel. Remember, they were waving off camera, stop, shut it down, enough. Behind the scenes, Democrats are saying this: it's incompetence at the end of the day. I think they need to get rid of people. But Kamala thinks she's safe. She's been burning up the phones from her Hawaiian vacation, telling donors she's ready to get back in the fight for 28. And the donors are like, are you kidding me?
I think this disqualifies her forever. If you can't run a campaign, you can't run America. So the same thing is going to follow Harris for the rest of her career. She cannot be trusted with the money. And the donors are going to be like, where is this money?
Kamala's campaign manager is about to get canceled. She might be out of politics for good. Jen O'Malley Dillon, she was a Biden lady who never really wanted Kamala on the ticket in the first place, leaked to the Post that Kamala should be dumped from the ticket. And then when Joe got dumped, she took over Kamala's campaign and stabbed her in the back. That's what Democrats are saying. You know how girls can get. They're saying, quote, we don't really know why Jen didn't like her. But Biden's still getting most of the blame. Not for destroying the country and putting the Democrats on a path to disaster. No, they just think he should have dropped out sooner. Biden not taking any blame at all. He's acting like he won. The lame ducks letting Ukraine fire our missiles into Russia. Scranton Joe's even lost Michael Moore. Quote, seriously, this is your legacy? This is how you want to go out in a blaze of horror? Like if Joe's got to go, we all got to go with him? Right into World War III? We're hearing rumblings in Democrat circles that it's gotten so bad that Bernie Sanders is thinking about officially leaving and starting a third party. James Carville says Democrats are living in the dark.
I and every other, in my opinion, everybody else is living in the dark. So when you live in the dark, what do? You try to turn the light on. I mean, turn on the flashlight. Let's see where because we just stumbling around, hitting walls, tripping over furniture, and let's see how we get there. And I don't know anybody that really knows this. People will call me and say, do this or do that, but I'm trying to find the light switch here, dude, and I can't. The wall is blank right now, but we are fooling around in the dark here. That I know.
You notice what we're not hearing about? What got Kamala into this mess? It's how Joe Biden governed the country. His policies killed us. Maybe we shouldn't have printed $1 gazillion and spent it on electric cars and windmills so people couldn't afford bacon. Maybe we shouldn't have invited the third world in and handed them hotel rooms and debit cards. If Biden had stayed in, he was doomed. Kamala was doomed. She had no message, no vision, and all her team did was lie. Trump was an unstoppable force destined to retake the White House. He had a record and a story to tell. 2 brushes with death and looked great in the Mickey D's apron. If Trump lost, he was going to prison. He put his life on the line to win. Democrats put your life on the line to win. They sacrificed you to hold power. The Ragin' Cajun thinks they could have done even more.
I want to show you, this is a seasoning called Slap Your Mama. So you say, well, James, you'd do anything to win. You had this wonderful relationship with your mother, mutual idolatry, which a lot of mothers and sons have in Louisiana, in the documentary. And would you slap your mama to win an election? Of course I would. And you know what else? If I told my mama, I got to slap you to win. And she said, son, is that going to help you close the sale? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, go ahead and slap me. Go ahead and slap me. You do anything you can to win.